Hi, everyone. I'm Amina Cooper, public art consultant and Forecast Public Arts Current Change Lab Research Fellow with another interview in conjunction with the newest issue of Forward magazine. I've had the pleasure of curating the current issue's Public Art Now section, where Dr. Pecou's work is featured. Dr. Pecou received his BFA at the Atlanta College of Art in 1997 and a PhD from Emory University in 2018. Dr. Pecou exhibits his art worldwide in addition to lecturing and speaking engagements at colleges and universities. As an educator, he has developed Vantage Point, a narrative-based arts curriculum focused on Black male youth. Dr. Pecou is also the founding director of the African Diaspora Art Museum of Atlanta, or ADAMA, and his work is featured in noted private and public national and international collections, including but not limited to the Smithsonian National Museum of African American Art and Culture, Société Générale Paris, and I'm sorry, I don't speak French, so excuse me if I butchered that, and the National Museum at Duke University and the High Museum of Atlanta. Thank you so much, Dr. Pecou, for joining me and being in a conversation with me about your work and your career.
It's my pleasure, Amina. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So the first question that I have for you that I've asked all of our other interviewees is, how and why do you choose to work in the public realm?
The reason that I choose to do art in the public realm is, at its core, that's what art is about. It's about engaging publics. It's about creating space for conversation and interaction in ways that transcend words. And I think that is probably the one of the most powerful reasons that art exists for us, is because it allows us to engage in dialogue with one another, beyond language, beyond religion, beyond culture, beyond race, whatever it may be, whatever those like boxes or barriers that we either put ourselves in or have put on us. Art allows us to connect across those borders, and being able to share work publicly, I think, is not so much revolutionary, right? But it is something that is crucial to transforming the way that we see ourselves in the world, and just thinking about the challenges of accessibility that continue to plague museums and institutions, right? Especially when it relates to the Black community. Putting work in public spaces, creating opportunities for the public to engage in artwork that is outside of these walls, right, outside of these institutions, means that we can have deeper, more meaningful conversations. And so for that reason, and a few more, I think that's why I'm so interested in that forum.
Very well said. And how would you describe your public art practice and your approach to public art making?
It's interesting because I don't codify my practice like as a like gallery or museum kind of thing versus public. Like, all of my work is public, and I'm very grateful to what has happened with social media, as becoming this sort of access point for more and more people to engage in like contemporary art, or even more traditional arts. But yeah, I mean, I think for me, my entire practice is public art. Everything that I'm doing, and especially because my work is so focused on representing and voicing concerns of the Black community, and particularly the Black male experience. Like, the more public I can be, I think the more effective my work can be. And it's just something that I would say emerged as a part of my own evolution as an artist. In the beginning, the goal was in fact to be in the museums and galleries and stuff. But when I got there, I realized that the people that I was talking to and talking about were not there with me, and that was a problem for me. So I've tried in as many ways as I can and continue to create portals other than doors for people to have access to my work.
Great. So mounting a public art project can be full of challenges, but also is a very rewarding process. So I'm just curious, especially with your project for the Atlanta Beltline, what was the most challenging aspect about that project and the most rewarding aspect about creating that project?
The first part of the question is the easiest. The most challenging part about the project was actually when the work was installed for the public, by means of how to engage the work, right? Like it was installed on site prior to the full sort of evolution of the project. Because it was a highly visual like experience, it's a metallic gold cop car, right? Sitting in this very public place. People immediately began to desecrate it in a lot of respects, climbing on it to take pictures and, people graffitied on it. A couple of times it was vandalized, the windshield was broken, things of that nature. And so I think the most challenging part for me was the fact that that in many ways people did not know how to interact with the piece, right? And the not knowing, the first thing to do was to kind of destroy it, and so that was frustrating because I think a part of it was also like an effect of like cultural appropriation and misinterpretation, right? So like, people are like, oh, here's some like kind of hip hop thing. So let me do my most hip hop, drag kind of thing that I can think of, right? Let me, squat down really low and take a picture, or let me like stroll myself across the hood of this, car as a, take a photo for Instagram, like that kind of thing. As an artist who put a lot of pride and care into it, it was offensive. But it ultimately was a learning lesson, right? Which kind of leads me into the second part of your question. The reward, right, was the conversations that were sparked from that kind of interaction and that type of engagement, right? To be able to use it as an opportunity to engage the city of Atlanta, for one, on, how to properly caretake and present, public art, because, it is a fairly new phenomenon in Atlanta to have public art that is something other than a mural, right? And so there's that learning curve that happens there. But also, I think, again, it made a space for some, critical conversations to happen around race and interpretation and appropriation and, all these kinds of things. Like, why is it that, the first response to something that appears Black is to, like, treated in this manner, right? Because there were other sculptures on the Beltline that are in proximity to that piece that have never been vandalized or destroyed in that way, right? And so there were a lot of lessons. So I think, on both levels, like the challenge and the reward in both was, the space to create meaningful dialogue.
Right. Yeah, I think it was such a complex project, and I think it got a lot of various reactions. But I think that's what the brilliant part of that project was, is that it provoked so much thought and so much different reactions. And I think you're right. One of the, I guess maybe not rewarding, but learning lessons is for you as the artist, but really for the client and the city about how to educate the public around public art. Because again, a lot of people will walk by it and not even know that it's public art. or
Right.
they don't understand that art does exist in the public realm. You know, it's not just isolated in museums. So anyway, before I go off on a tangent, I'll ask you our next question. So are there any artists that particularly inspire your work that's not, you know, the sort of the two-dimensional works that we really kind of know you for?
Oh yeah, most certainly. I always refer to David Hammonds as my lighthouse. You know, I love his sense of humor. I love his boldness. I love the fact that he takes often what appears to us extremely mundane and elevates it to a place that forces us to have critical conversations around subjects and topics and objects that impact our lives. I just think he's a brilliant artist and a provocateur. And you know, my own sort of rebel nature resonates with the provocateur in David Hammonds.
When you said that, I immediately could see the connections. And finally, do you have any advice for artists, particularly Black artists, that might be interested in transitioning from a studio-based sort of practice and exploring public art? Any sage words of advice?
You know, at the risk of sounding cliche, you know, the thing for me is always authenticity first, regardless of what your medium or your form is when expressing. And I say that because when you are truly being authentic in, you know, in your voice, the form and, you know, medium doesn't matter, right? The message will still come across clearly. And you don't have to necessarily decide to go one path or the other. You can do all of it, right? It's just a matter of fine-tuning the ways in which you are using those forms or using those disciplines to say what it is. But I think when you're true to yourself, right, and you're true to your expression, that it shines through regardless of how you present it.
Wonderful. Well, those are all my questions.
Yeah, that was
Thank
easy.
you so much, Dr. Pecou, for your time and sharing your brilliance with us. Yeah, and good luck with everything. Please keep in touch. You know, any public art conversations, I hope to hear from you.
Okay, for sure. And please let me know where we can find the is it going to be a print article or is it
no, so they used to publish Forecast Public Art magazine, and then I think this year they went completely digital, so it should be coming out very, very soon, and I'll certainly send you the link to the article in the new issue when it's available.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I'm really flattered to be included in this piece. So thank you.
No. I mean, like it's such an amazing. I mean, the film, everything. I'm just like, this is just brilliant. This is so brilliant. So yeah, no, thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right. You have a great day.
You too.